friends. This is Jesse Juarez, president of the Rotary Club of sunny Seaside, California. You're watching a presentation which was recorded live at one of our club meetings. Seaside Rotary meets twice a month via Zoom. Our meetings feature dynamic presentations by many of the movers and shakers that make Monterey County such a vibrant and hardworking community. If you'd like to join a meeting or learn more about Rotary and the work that we do, you can reach out to Seaside Rotary Club at gmail.com. Again, that's Seaside Rotary Club at gmail.com. You can also connect with us on our Facebook page. As always, don't forget to like and subscribe to this channel for more dynamic content. Fantastic. And of course, this meeting will be recorded to be included on our Seaside Rotary YouTube channel for people to be able to check out. Now, I'd like to welcome some good friends of ours with Community Partnership for Youth here in Seaside, well-beloved, well-trusted local nonprofit organization helping youth in Seaside. I'd like to welcome our guest speakers, Sherry Hasty, Ben Bruce, and Mr. Franco Pacheco. Welcome.
It's our pleasure.
Thank you for having us.
It's been interesting being this is our 30th year of being incorporated as a nonprofit. And so we're doing a lot of reflection and being Black History Month, just being so aware of the foundation that was laid that has kept us going for 30 years. And initially after Raymond Avila was shot and killed, the leading force in organizing CPY was the school district in the city. And many of you may remember Lewis Jackson, who was the head of the recreation department, was on our founding board. And I've just been writing notes down to remind me of what's going on, and I've lost my screen now. But we've just been so blessed with having the foundation laid so solidly for us. Finding the standards with an African-American group in Northeast Portland at a gang workshop that we went to in Portland, and completely adopting that, and the kids are singing it or saying them every day, and have really seen what, you know, our whole thought pattern is with justice and helping give kids the tools to be successful, and that's respecting one another, telling the truth, owning their stuff so they can work it through, et cetera, et cetera. And I'm not out in the field as I used to be, but Ben's out there every day. And I was just reading a story of a child back in 2001, because I'm trying to go back, and the same consistent is happening with our kids today. And I think the thing that tells the best story, and he always looks at me and goes, oh, here we go, is for Ben's story, because his story is the same story for a lot of our staff that are still working with us. And we wouldn't be here today if it wasn't for the consistent support of the city and the school district that continues right now. During those 30 years, there's been some times that we've just kind of ducked and hidden, with leadership being different at both the school district and the city. But now it's a healthy time. It's the time, like it started, and I think that even our relationship with the Boys and Girls Club and the other organizations, we're coming out of our silos, and we're really trying to support and work with one another. So at this time, I'd just turn it over to Ben.
All right. Well, for those who already know my story, I'm going to apologize ahead of time. It is accurate, though, what Sherry said. I think it's a story that reflects a lot of our students, a lot of our staff, with the idea that we as an organization have really been able to be consistent with our youth and young people over the years. My story began when I was in 7th grade. This was 1999, and my sister and I were put into CPY. My neighbors went to CPY, and that's kind of how my mother figured or learned about the program. But I tell people we were put into CPY, and I did not go willingly. 7th grade summer, I wanted to stay home. I very much thought I could, just take care of my younger sister, and that'd be it. But it was really important for me. It was an incredibly impactful summer. Being that I just finished 7th grade, I was told that I had the responsibility of being a junior leader, and I got assigned to my mentor, Mr. Jason. Mr. Jason and his group of 2nd grade boys, and I found a voice that summer. Really, I was given a voice. I was not a kid who was acting out in class, sometimes at home, but generally speaking, I was just quiet. I tried to stay hidden. And this is also a time where just prior, my mom had gotten out of unhealthy relationship, and I was still figuring all of that out. And at the same time, I was seeing my biological dad less and less. So being there with Mr. Jason, it gave me that voice. I really enjoyed being highlighted. I will definitely tell more about the summit in Portland, or I'm going to have Sherry share that. But from the middle school leadership, I got to go on to the high school leadership program, and that was actually my first job. My mom worked at my school at Seaside High. I'm an alum of 2005, so I couldn't get into much trouble at school. And then every day after school, I was headed off to Marina Del Mar because we had a site there, and that was my first job. And the big thing was I stuck around initially with CPY because of the mentors. And in high school, I stuck around because I started seeing myself become the mentor. And so it was just an incredibly impactful experience. I ended up going off to UC Davis. I went there for psychology, and a big part of that was inspired by my work with youth in CPY. But I kept coming back every summer. And I'm still here today because of that. Fortunately, after college, I was able to come back as the volunteer coordinator, and then program coordinator, and now program director. But as we said before, this is not unique to me. A lot of the staff that I have now are currently, or who are currently with us, are staff who grew up in the program. So my site coordinators, my high school leadership are, it used to be that my staff were, my high school leaders were kids who I got to work with when they were youth. Now it's a lot less so. We're talking about subsequent generations. One of my high school leaders who's getting ready to graduate, his mom was part of the high school leadership with me. So there's just this ongoing generational effect. And again, we're able to follow our kids through high school. We have several staff who have gone on who are getting ready to start their masters, who are in their master's program. And it's incredibly rewarding because, again, this was a program that was important for me, but it doesn't just stop with myself. It's extremely rewarding and just fun for us to be able to see the ripple effect and, how those others are paving the way for the next generation of students as well. So I'm just excited to be a part of it. I am going to let Sherry share a little bit about just going back to the CPY standards and the summit in Portland. For those who don't know, CPY has a set of 6 standards that are built on respect and integrity. Our students recite them every day. And they're used as a tool, as a backbone for the program, something for our students to reflect on in terms of their behavior and their actions. And we really try to utilize them in everything that we do, but we also always want to acknowledge that those are something that that we borrowed, that we I won't say stole, but that we've been using and someone else gave those to us. So we always want to acknowledge that. And Sherry, I don't know if you want to mention a little bit about Portland.
I think in the 90s, the whole gang movement was coming. It was not the Norteños and Serenos that were in Seaside, it was the Bloods and the Fam. And most of us were caught off guard when in 1991, a lot of parolees had just hit the streets. It was not a good time for Seaside. And I think the kids were, the concern was what was happening on the streets rather than what was happening with the young people. And when Raymond Avila, an outstanding athlete, scholar, who was going off to college, when he was killed, I think it was an awakening for everybody. I think it takes sometimes a crisis to wake up and really see what was going on. And I know that Dave and Moses was around. You were both around at that time, I believe. And so we had so much to learn. And they started to have gang workshops, which I don't see very much of that being done now because it's sort of part of our culture now. It's sad, but sometimes the new things get more attention. But there was a conference in Portland, and Ann Preby, who used to be with the school district, and I believe Billy DeBerry and someone else all went up to this conference. And we were, for me, I can only speak for myself, it was like complete awakening. I was just, Franco and I were talking, and I can remember at this conference, they were talking about it. They were saying that young men there weren't so many young ladies in the gangs back then either, but young men were ones that could read a book or watch a movie. They wouldn't remember the name of it. They wouldn't remember the name of the key characters, but they could tell you all about it. And I thought, that's me. That's how my learning style is. So it was like it just tore off all the stereotypes or the labels that we put on kids that make that wrong move and may be diverted. When CPY started, the emphasis, the demographics in Seaside were predominantly African-American. And so the emphasis was to put on a program for African-American boys between the ages of 7 and 9. Well, where there's little boys, there's little girls. And so when we started, that's what we were going to go through 5th grade. And then our kids didn't want to leave. So that's when we have grown out of need and out of desire for kids. And right now we have so many in college that are checking in with us, and it's overwhelmingly, amazingly wonderful. It's easy to think of all the struggles that we go through and the silliness of life, of people judging, but when you see kids making good choices and good decisions and becoming successful and caring for the community and caring, it's always just it's such a blessing when a young adult will reach out. We have a young lady who came to us early, And she's now in Philadelphia, and she'll check in every once in a while to find out how she's doing. And she was the site coordinator at Highland for years, and then went back to Columbia and Medeman and went to Philadelphia. I don't know if that's far more than you asked for. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I'd love to add as well, for those who are interested, just what this year has looked like for us. We're more than halfway through the year, but we've been at 5 sites, and those sites are Ord Terrace, Highland, King Elementary, or King School of the Arts, Delray Woods Elementary, and then our new site this year is DLAM, the Dual Language Academy for the Monterey Peninsula. So it's our first year being at that site. It's been a lot of fun. It's been exciting to be able to work with new families, new students. It's a little bit of a different demographic over there. But again, it just goes into, at this point in the semester, we've really been able to build up those relationships with the parents, with the staff, with the faculty, and I'm excited for that relationship going forward. As a whole, we've served 479 students through our after-school mentor tutor program to date. And one other big change for this year, other than being at DLAMP, is we started the year with some staff who are serving full-time. We actually have CPY staff who are partnering with the district to provide school day supervisory assistance. So they're there to help during the breaks for students, to help during lunch, to help in the classrooms as well with teachers. And that's something that's happening at each of those sites. And, it was a natural transition for us. We normally would just be operating during the after school hours. But again, just with the pandemic, we've really deepened our relationship with MPUSD over these past 2 years. And some of our staff did go from working part-time majority of the year to now working full-time. And it just seems like a natural transition for us to be able to support MPUSD during the school day as well, and still allow those full-time opportunities for some of our staff. So that's been exciting. Obviously, there's been challenges this year with COVID. That continues to be the case. But what I say with everybody is we are all struggling through this together, and we kind of have each other to lean on. So no one feels alone in this. It has not been easy. This past month and a half has probably been one of the most difficult times of the year, just with the surge. But we're coming out of it, and it's hopefully exciting going forward. I don't want to get my hopes up too much, but I see the silver lining. And either way, we've done this, we've been doing this, we've persevered, we continue to be flexible. So we know that's going to continue to be the case. I do also want to highlight real quick our high school leadership program. We do have high school mentors working with us. Our high schoolers, again, I mentioned it was my first job. They have to volunteer for a full summer or a full semester before actually coming on as paid staff. They have to maintain at least a 2.5 GPA, and they also have to commit to coming every day, as well as participate in some community events each semester. But we have 17 students currently with us, and we're getting ready to add in an additional 2. And 6 of those are actually seniors, so they're going to be graduating this year, and that's always exciting for us. Again, vast majority of these students are students who we've gotten to see since elementary school, so it's kind of fun to see the next generation take off and go to college, and also to look at our elementary school students and think who are going to be those high school leaders 10 years from now. Last thing I'll part with for this year is just to highlight some of our partnerships. So one of our big ones, and this started again early on in the pandemic, but with All in Monterey County and the food bank, we've been able to continue to provide food for our families on a weekly basis. Today is actually one of our food distribution days, and so we're able to head on over to MPC, and we're going to distribute food. Generally enough for about 30 of our families, and we'll spread that over 2 to 3 sites. And we've been able to do that consistently, which is amazing. And the need is very much still there. So we were happy that, even when lockdowns were, when we left the lockdowns, that this was an opportunity that continued to be a resource for our community. I want to highlight Palenque Arts out of King. Our students have been able to be back into different art classes, whether it be arts, hip hop, dance, guitar as well. So one of our students going off yesterday, and it's just a lot of fun to work together, but also last year was really difficult for a lot of our kids. And so it's been incredibly impactful for our students to be able to, one, be around each other, but two, for them to have these enrichment opportunities again. And on that note, today as well, we have Lisa Handley of Plumeria Paper Crafts joining our students at Highland Elementary. She does collage artwork, is an amazing collage artist, and she's been coming consistently on a month by month basis, just preparing different crafts for our students. So, sometimes it comes in the form of organizations, sometimes it comes in the form of one person, and she's been one of those. Another partnership is with CSUMB. We had 30 service learners last semester. We are on track for that now. I think we have 17 interested service learners so far. It's been special to have them back on campus with us. And, the big highlight for me is last semester, as well as this semester, we're starting to see more and more where we will have past CPY students reach out and, oh, I didn't know I could serve at CPY. And so it's a lot of fun to see just, again, that next generation. So, and, it's always been kind of the promise of CSUMB. More and more of our kids are going there. So it's a really special resource. And I'm a firm believer in the Service Learning Institute. Last two for you all. Ventana Wilderness Alliance, they've been one of our longtime partners. We've been able to go backpacking with them. And this past December, we went on our first backpacking trip with 8 students. It was 6 students. It was 3 high school and 3 middle school, 3 eighth graders. But it was our first backpacking trip since before the pandemic. So it'd been, almost 2 years to the date that we had our last backpacking trip with them. And they've all been limited to just day outings prior to that. And we have 2 more on the calendar, but it's always special to provide those, not just experiences in the outdoors, but, one, I grew up here on the peninsula. I did not know what we really had access to in our own backcountry, and a lot of our kids don't. So it's special to show them that and why those areas need to be protected. My last highlight is, of course, the Boys and Girls Club. I just want to echo again just the increased support over the years, whether it be supplies, but especially this last year. You were the first ones who reached out, and I say you because I know Jesse and Andrew are on the call, but when we were waiting to hear if our staff were going to have access to the vaccine, to the COVID vaccine, you're the first ones to really reach out and make that possible for us. So it was something that I still kind of hold very near and dear. I mean, before the school district. So that was very special for us. We all know how important that is for our work right now. And I just, through all this, it's been wonderful to have these partners who we really can rely on and work together with. And, that's going to be the theme going forward, partnership, because you can see it, I don't know if it's right side or if it's backwards like I'm looking at it, but partnership is in our name. So we definitely appreciate each and every one of you, and that extends to the Seaside Rotary Club as well. You've done amazing things for us over the years, and we, as Sherry said, would not be here without you. I don't know how we're doing for time, but I do want to invite Franco if he has some words as well. I just want to mention this has been a big team of 2 in the background for the longest between Sherry and I, and it's been amazing to have Franco with us this past year. as you can imagine, as busy as we get, there are things that we want to do, there are dreams that we have, and it's just not enough. And still, there's a lot to do, but having Franco this year, there's already been just some really cool initiatives and some additional dreams that we have going forward that, you know, it feels like we can take it on this year. So I'm excited.
Thanks, Ben. That's all I got. No, I'm kidding. It's been a fascinating. I'll keep it very brief. I can tell that Ms. Gale's leaving me here, so I don't want to leave her too long. I'm kidding. So I mean, it's interesting. I had known about CPY on the peripheral for a long time. Way back in the day. By way back in the day, I mean like 5 years ago for me, which feels like a lifetime. I had committed to run an ultra marathon that was probably not going to go well. I figured if I was going to kill myself doing something, I might as well do it for a reason. So I had actually called my dad, Dave, and I said, you know, what organization in Seaside really could I give to that would make a difference? And he said CPY. And then I had emailed Sherry, and I was like, hey, I'm in Wisconsin, but I'd love to raise money for you. And she said yes. And so I mean, I did that, and I did another one. And eventually I joined the board, and I was on the board for about a year, or maybe a little less. And then this past August, an opportunity came up for me to join the team. And it's been a really, really fascinating ride. It's hard to join a team of two, especially a team of two as closely knit as Sherry and Ben. And I've learned a lot about myself and my workplace habits. So that's good. I do think the one thing I'll give you that I've seen from the outside, though, is, I mean, I've always kind of known about CPY since I've been a kid. I grew up in the city of Seaside. My first job was with the city. I worked there until they took me off payroll through college, which hurt my feelings, but that's okay. But since coming back, one of my big things I've wanted to do, I moved back from Wisconsin because I wanted to be close to my family and to really get back to the place that helped me become who I am, for better or for worse. And so I've tied myself in a lot of places. So I worked at San Carlos, I coach at Stevenson, I coach at Monterey High. I'm on commissions for the city. And the one universal thing I found is that no matter where I go, CPY is present. So on Monterey High's campus, if I'm wearing a CPY shirt, I get pulled aside and like, oh, you work there. I went there. Or one of my athletes, actually, my favorite athlete, we can't say that, but it's true, was a freshman that just came through CPY, and she's a leader. And even on the team, like, I'm not an easy coach to work with. And it was great to have her on the team. It kind of was in line with already what I wanted to teach. And it was so easy to have her. I mean, things like that. And then I'm at Stevenson, and then I hear CPY talked about from my AD. And even this past week, we were at York, and we're talking about a diversity program. So I think when an organization's been around for 30 years, it's easy to forget how important and I guess bedrock it is to the community, because you hear CPY and you see it. And I don't think anybody really has, without knowing what the roots of the tree look like, all you see is the top of the tree. And I think becoming an employee, I've seen just how deep the roots go and how much we touch. And it's been very intimidating, but it's been incredible to be part of. And so I'm very grateful for that part. And I will say, as far as I go, I'm more of the, I don't like to talk like Ben. I'm not quite as linguistically blessed or charming. But I do like you to know that we've completely redone the website. So if you have not been on our new website, we launched it this past week or month or 2 weeks ago. It's pretty and has pictures and stuff. We do have a new newsletter link. So if you would like to be updated by me with newsletters, please sign up. I promise once a quarter, as much as we may, well, that's a lie, but not every week, probably once every other week, you'll get emails occasionally. We do have social media that's, picking back up. It was great before. We do about 2 posts a week. Usually it's motivational stuff. So if you'd like to be motivated by pictures of cats, small dogs, with a mix of important messages and idioms, I invite you to follow us there. All of our user handles are CPY at CPY4Kids. I'll put it in the chat. And I'll also put our website in the chat. But again, it's been such a gratifying experience to join this organization. And just to see how much I already was interlapping with them through my own life. And so it's just wonderful. And I'll end there.
He has been the joy. He's been the glue that's really, as we look forward to moving ahead, he's added so much depth to what we do and keeping us on course. One other thing I just want to mention, we've been really blessed. Different colleges have reached out and recommended students that are working on their MSWs to work with us. We started even during the COVID with the young lady that was working with special ed students or special needs students. And we have someone coming in to do their doctoral capstone in the next several months, which only gives that. We're concerned about academics, but we're more concerned for the social, emotional struggles and challenges our kids are going through. So to have somebody that's really experienced, and we've hooked into the whole health perspective of MPUSD, and I can't help but think for some of our kids that have been so challenged. We were just looking at statistics from July. 1/4 of our kids in July had moved in the last year. That was during COVID. And that, as much trauma as was going on, I mean, that's crazy. So they may have moved from a garage to another house, or they're not kids that have left the area. That whole unstableness really affects kids. So it's been awesome to have some professionals that really know how to work with kids and don't react. And so we're very, very blessed. We will take questions. We may not answer, but we will take questions.
Well, Sherry, Franco, Ben, thank you so much for sharing all of that. Of course, representing the Boys and Girls Clubs of Monterey County, Ben, very happy to be partnering with your organization and supporting you guys any way that we can. Same, wearing my Seaside Rotary hat as well, of course. We're always happy to be a part of that. And Franco, I really love the quote you mentioned about when you see the top of the tree, you don't realize how deep the roots go. And I will say from my personal experience, I spent most of my life in the Salinas area, owned a business there. So I feel like a little bit of a transplant of sorts, since I've only been working here in Seaside with the Boys and Girls Clubs for about, Andrew, about 3 years now. Oh my gosh, 3 years. Crazy. But having said that, I'm just amazed and very humbled to be learning so much about the history of Seaside, and learning about how deep the roots grow. Sherry, you mentioned how this is something that I've heard from different individuals as well who've lived in Seaside for a long time, just how much worse things were, or how bad things were in the 90s during that time. And the more I hear about the growth of CPY, it's clear to see that that the influence of CPY has helped in creating a much happier Seaside, much healthier, much safer Seaside. So I want to applaud yourself and everyone with your organization for being a part of that. Having said that, a little bit of a mouthful there. I did have a couple of questions. I'd be more than happy to open the floor if anyone had any questions. But one question regarding the pandemic and its effects on the mental health of youth. This is a bit of a vague question, but how, in general, can you touch on how they're handling it, or if youth in general are very open to speak about their mental health as a concept on this?
I think, I have a belief that because we were in the schools before schools opened, and when everything opened up, none of us knew what we should do, how we should do it, where we should go. And our young people learned flexibility in a way that they never would have learned. It's like when all of a sudden you become a mama and you have a little one, and then all of a sudden you have a toddler and you learn all those new skills. And when I see and listen and talk to our kids that were doing their high school online, and yet being with the kids in their small cohorts. And when they graduated, and 5 of them are first generation graduates that have gone off, and some of them full scholarships. They have a grounding, we talk about life being mucky and sometimes being, but I think what they learned more than anything was in life, you've got to be flexible. You can't just dig your heels in and be disappointed when it isn't the way you want it. So from a staff perspective, but then again, our last pay period, we had 13 out for COVID exposure and paid over $4,000 in sick pay. That's huge for us. And it hasn't happened in the last several years. So it's not over. Most of them are back now. It just hit us one pay period that was crazy. But again, that flexibility, you roll with the punches. And I believe God's got his hand on us in a way that's supernatural. And that's all I can say. It's just, you know, when we need it, we need the resources, they're there. When we, all we can do is what we can do, but it's been pretty incredible. And for the kiddos, they're so resilient. Our concern, and if you haven't seen it, there was an awesome, I don't know, webinar podcast with the hospital and with MPUSD on Monday night on fentanyl. Our kids are vaping more, fentanyl's out there. You know, during the pandemic, we lost two children, two former CPY kids, one through a car accident, one through suicide. It's been tough, but as a whole, it's so easy to and hard to not just concentrate on the kids that are really struggling and haven't made it, but overall, that resiliency. And I believe it's because of the staff being so consistent. It's a hard question because it's not as, everybody's different and wired different.
Yeah, on that note, I would share as well, just one of my observations is the, you know, there's a little bit of a dichotomy. You have those who really were starved for just social interaction, who now that they can, are flourishing with that. And then those who, because of that lack of social interaction, are struggling now that they are face to face, because they've had, you know, so much screen time for whatever case. You know, they want to go home, play video games, or they just are uncomfortable and insecure. And so we've kind of continue to see the two. And then also, you know, there's students who are very open now in terms of just sharing what's going on. And, you know, again, the others who you have to poke and prod a little bit more, just be there to listen when they're ready. But we've seen definitely the two sides, and I think it is a little different for everybody, but that's what I've gotten to see.
I think my friend, Mr. Dave Cassis, has his hand raised there. Dave.
Hi, I'm not sure who I should direct this to, Sherry or Ben, or actually it could probably be almost anybody here. Years ago at a meeting, it might've been a CPY meeting many years ago, we were told that the students were being asked to join gangs as early as the 5th grade. And I don't know if that's still going on, and if there's any push against it. You know, I'm a firm believer in what you allow, you get more of. And I don't know if we're getting to allow more things like that. If it's like was mentioned, is it just accepted? And I don't know. Can I get a little info on that from someone?
It's interesting. We have a young lady whose father is a Norteño, and she was raised in Salinas, and she's now in Seaside, has been for a couple of years. And her father still has that lifestyle. And I just brought her on the Juvenile Justice Commission, the County Juvenile Justice Commission, because that's a desire she has. And I asked her to write out what she would feel comfortable in sharing about her life. You know, we never want to build on kids or say anything that's going to hurt them. And in this statement she wrote, she talked about, and let me finish my sentence. She talked about why her father joined the gang, which has been a lifestyle for him for many years, was because he was not accepted at home. He didn't have the love of parents or the consistency of parents. He didn't belong anywhere. And I think the gang members that we know that have joined gangs and come out of gangs, that's the prevailing reason they go into it is they don't fit in anywhere else. There was a time when we used to say quietly that CPY was a gang. Not all gangs are bad, but it created that place where kids could feel cared for, felt a sense of belonging. I don't think kids go out to hurt people. I don't think kids go out, and most of the things that have happened in the city are wannabe gang members, and they have to go hurt somebody in order to get in a gang. So I think we've seen the result of a lot of that versus, and historically the little knowledge I have on gangs is usually the reason why a kid will join a gang is they want to have a sense of belonging. And we have had kids that have been in a gang and come to CPY. And I think of a young man that some of you might have mentioned, George Cassis, and he's now in San Jose working, doing great work with the Latino community up there. And that was one of the reasons why he joined the gangs and came out of it, because he felt safe. It's always hard for kids to make that break from gangs. It's kind of like you can take the kid out of the hood, but you can't take whatever that saying is. It's tough. It's really tough. So you've got to create a place where kids are feeling loved and cared for. I don't know if that answered, but.
Well, I was just curious about if they're still being approached, and
Yes.
Being that I'm sort of out of the community, for the last 8 or 10 years, not that I don't care, because I truly do, but I worry about the kids and where the gang lifestyle does take them, and there was a time when they had gang workshops where people from gangs got together at the Oldemeyer Center, and they had a talk, open communication, and I don't know, it's been quite a while. I don't remember if it was Mel Mason's group that got that going, but it seemed like it brought them out in the open, and it was okay for them to be out in the open instead of being hidden away as a clandestine,
Teddy Black is doing a really good job with the diversion program.
Okay.
We meet with him consistently, and he works for the city. And there's been some upticks more with girl gangs in Seaside in the last year, but the police department's doing a really good job. Things haven't died. They kind of come in cycles, but I think our knowledge is more, and Jess and Andrew can talk to this too, because I'm sure they've seen it at the club, but I think we have a handle on it more. We understand more what causes young people to go into gangs, because they're honest about it.
Yeah, I was just going to echo as well. Teddy Black, there's the My Life Story Gang Prevention Summit that has been happening, and obviously during the pandemic that's taken a break, but then also Boys and Girls Club. We've definitely enjoyed being able to send some of our staff and students as well to their gang intervention summit. So there has been events over the years, but still make sure that that stays a priority.
I had one other question, is if Franco could one day come back and speak to us on that wonderful bunch of medals you have behind you.
Yes.
Oh, my military medal. Sure,
Pardon?
one day.
you?
Definitely one day. Yeah, that's from
That
my
would be
time in the
great.
Army. Yeah.
Okay, I'd love to hear that. I think most of us would.
Same. here. I think that makes for a great presentation. One item to add to the conversation regarding gangs, Dave, you realize you are part of a gang, right? The Seaside Rotary. We are a gang. You realize? I'm joking. Jokes aside. Jokes aside. You know, I want to say thank you, Sherry, Franco, Ben, for the work that you're doing. I know it's a very sensitive topic, and it's one topic which has evolved so much. Even growing up in Salinas, it's still a topic there that evolves and is given a lot of insight from people who are involved with it or related to people who are involved in that lifestyle, people who are direct in that lifestyle as well. But I think, the work that CPY is doing to work with youth one-on-one, work with youth who might be related to someone who's involved in that lifestyle, I think that's where the long-term change exists. So once again, I wanted to thank you all for this. And I do apologize. It looks like it's 12:52 right now.
Sorry.
So no worries, no worries. Sign of a good meeting, a lively discussion there. So I apologize if we won't be able to get to everyone else's questions here, but I just want to thank you for being with us today, sharing your story, sharing an update on what's happening with CPY, and of course, wearing my Boys and Girls Clubs hat and Seaside Rotary hat and any future hats. Always going to be a great supporter of your organization. So thank you.
Thank you.
All right, everyone. Well, I'm going to go ahead and end the recording function now.